We are going live and in a minute we'll start. Hare Krishna, all dear devotees. I invite you and welcome you to the early morning short Bhagavatam class organized by Sri Radha Govinda Temple, Kolai, Bengaluru. And indeed, I am invited for and on behalf of His Grace, Sri Ramanista Das Prabhuji. As usual, we'll begin with prayers because prayers only will help us understand what really Lord Krishna wants us to understand. Om Agnan Timirandasya Jnana Chakshurmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, Prabhuji, we clear.
Thank you. Thank you, Mother. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Padati Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utpakalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavasya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagradanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padana Sagradalitam Shri Vishakhantasya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाचा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. May I request you to follow me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Janmadasya yato anvayad itirat shartheshu abhinah swarat. Tene brahmaradayadi kavai puyanti suraya. Tejo vari mrudam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo brusha.
Tejovari mridanyata vinimayo yatra trisargo amrusha.
Damna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi.
Damna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi.
Dharma projahita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
Dharma projahita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
वेद्यम वास्तवमत्र वस्तु श्रीवदम् तापत्रयोन्मूलनम्
वेद्यं वास्तवमत्र तापत्रयोन्मूलनम्
श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परैरीश्वरः
श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परैरीश्वरः
सद्योरद्य अवरुध्यतेऽत्र कृतिभिः शुश्रूषुभिस्तत्क्षणात्
सद्यो हृदि
अवरुध्यतेऽत्र कृतिभिः
प्रकृतिभिः शुश्रूषुभिस्तत्क्षणात्
निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं सुखमुखाद् अमृतद्रवसंयुतम्
निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं सुखमुखाद् अमृतद्रवसंयुतम्
पिबत भागवतं रसमालयम् मुखरहा मुरसिकभुवि भावुकः
पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः
नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमम्
नारायणं नमस्कृत्य
नरं चैव नरोत्तमम्
देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये
देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये
शृणुतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनः
शृण्वतां सकथाः कृष्णः पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनः
हृदयन्तस्तो यभद्राणि विदुनोति सुरस्तथा
हृद्यन्तस्तो हि भद्राणि दुरोति सुरस्तम्
नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया
नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया
भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी
भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके
भवति
भवति
नैष्टिकी
नैष्टिकी
Right. Let us start with the fifth canto, 14th chapter, verse number 2. We did verse number 1 yesterday. So let's begin with verse number 2. We need to recite the verse. Let us start with Madhuvai Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय यस्याम उहावा येते षडिन्द्रियनामानः कर्मणादस्य वह एवैते तत् पुरुषस्य धनं यत्किञ्चित् धर्मौपैकं बहुकृच्छ्राधिगतम् साक्षात् परमपुरुष आराधनलक्षणः यो असौ धर्मः तं तु संपराये उदाहरन्ति तद्धर्म्यं धनं दर्शन स्पर्शन श्रवण आस्वादन अवघ्राण संकल्प व्यवसाय गृह ग्रामौप्यभोगेन कुलाथस्य अजितात्मनः यथा सार्थस्य विलुपन्ति। थैंक यू प्रभु जी। हरे
Thank you, Mataji. Chitra Mohini Devi Dasi ji, Nanutpra Mataji. Hare Krishna.
प्रभु जी। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय यस्यां वा एते षडिन्द्रियायानमानः कर्मणा दस्यैव एव ते तदत्या पुरुषस्य धनं यत्किञ्च धर्म औपोयिकं बहुकुच्चादिगतं साक्षात् परमपुरुषाराधनलक्षणो यो असौ धर्मस्थं तु साम्पराय उदाहरन्ति तद्धर्म धनं दर्शन स्पर्शन श्रवण आस्वादन अवग्राण संकल्प व्यवसाय गृहगाम्योपभोगेन पुनात स्याजित आत्मनो यथा सार्थस्य विलुम्पन्ति। हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी। थैंक यू
Thank you, Mataji. Venkata Narasimha Das Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yasya muhavayete षडिन्द्रियमानाः कर्मणा दस्य वयवते तज्जता पुरुषस्य धनं यत्किञ्चित् धर्मोपैकं बहुकच्चादिगतं साक्षात् परमपुरुषाराधनलक्षणो योऽसौ धर्मस्तु सम्पराय उदाहरन्ति तद्धर्म्यं धनं धर्मण स्पर्शन श्रवण आस्वादन अवग्रहण संकल्प व्यवसाय गृह ग्राम्योपभोगेन कुनाधस्य अजितात्मनो यथा सार्धस्य विलुम्पन्ति। हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी।
Thank you, Prabhu. Vijaya Kumari Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय यस्याम् उहवायेद षट् इन्द्रियनामान कर्माण दर्श्य एवदे ददत्यदा पुरुषस्तनं यत्किञ्चित् धर्मोपैहं बहुकृचिरादिकं साक्षात् परमपुरुषाराधना अयो सौ धर्मस्थं तु सम्प्राय उदाहरन्ति तत् धर्म्यं तनं दर्शन स्पर्शन स्वरण आवधानाक्राण संकल्प व्यवसायोग्ये क्राम्योपभोगने गुणादस् अजितात्मनो यदा सादृश्य विलुम्बन्ति। हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी। थैंक यू प्रभु जी।
Thank you, Mataji. Anjali Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी। यस्याम् ऊहवा एते षड् इन्द्रियनामानः कर्मणा दस्यव एव ते तत् यथा पुरुषस्य धनं यत्किञ्चित् धर्म उपैकं बहुकृच्छा अधिगतं साक्षात् परमपुरुष आराधना लक्षणः यः असौ धर्मस्त तु साम्पराय उदाहरन्ति तद्धर्मं धनं दर्शन स्पर्शन श्रवण आस्वादन अवघ्राणा संकल्प व्यवसाय गृह उपभोगेन कुनाथस्य अजिता आत्मनः यथा सार्थस्य विलुमपन्ति। हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी।
Thank you, Mataji. Madhuswari Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji. Namaste Pranam.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी। दंडवत प्रणाम। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय यस्यामूहवा एते षड इन्द्रियनामानः कर्मणा दस्यव एव ते तद् अथा पुरुषस्य धनं यत्किञ्च धर्मयोपयैकं बहुकृच्छाधिकतं साक्षात् परमपुरुषा आराधनलक्षणो यो असौ धर्मस्थं तु साम्पराय उदाहरन्ति तदधर्म्यं धनं दर्शन स्पर्शन श्रवण आस्वादन अवघ्राण संकल्प अव्यवसाय गृहग्राम्य उपभोगेन पुनाथस्य अजितात्मनो यथा सार्थस्य विलुमपन्ति। थैंक यू प्रभु जी। हरे कृष्ण।
Thank you, Mataji. Srinivas Rao Prabhuji. Go ahead.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी। दंडवत प्रणाम। ओम
Pranam.
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय यस्यामुहवा एते षडिन्द्रियनामानः कर्मणा दस्यव एव ते तद्यथा पुरुषस्य धनं यत्किञ्च धर्मोपयकं बहुकृच्च अधिकतम् साक्षात् परमपुरुषा आराधनलक्षणो यशो धर्मस्थं तु सम्पराय उदाहरन्ति तद्धर्मं धनं श्रवणास्वादनावग्रहण संकल्प व्यवसाय गृह ग्राम्योपभोगेन पुनातस्य जितात्मनो यथा सार्धस्य विलुम्पन्ति। हरे कृष्ण।
Thank you, Prabhuji. Subharao Prabhuji, Narot Pranam Prabhuji.
हाँ प्रभु जी दंडवत प्रणाम। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय यस्यामुहवायेते षडिन्द्रियनामान कर्मणादस्य वयेवते तद्यथा पुरुषस्य धनं यत्किञ्चित् धर्मोपैकं बहुकृच्छा कुत्रादिकतं साक्षात् परमपुरुषाराधनलक्षणो योऽसौ धर्मस्तं तु साम्पराय उदाहरन्ति तधर्म्यं धनं दर्शन स्पर्शन श्रवणास्वादनानवघ्राण संकल्प व्यवसाय गृह ग्राम्योपभोगेन पुनाथस्याजितात्मनो यथा सार्थस्य विलुम्पन्ति। हरे कृष्ण।
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prafulla Mataji, Hare Krishna Mataji, Narot Pranam Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी प्रणाम प्रभु जी। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय यस्मामुवा एते षडिन्द्रिय नामानो कर्मणः एवेते तद् यथा पुरुषस्य धनं यत्किञ्चित् धर्मोपायकं बहुकृच्छाधिगतं साक्षात् परम पुरुष आराधना लक्षणः यशो धर्मस्य तं तु सम्पराय उदाहरन्ति तद्धर्यं धनं दर्शनं स्पर्शनं श्रवणम् आस्वादनम् अवग्रहं ग्राम्योपभोगिन पुनः विलुम्पन्ति। हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी। थैंक यू प्रभु जी।
Thank you, Mataji. Revati Mataji, Hare Krishna Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी प्रणाम प्रभु जी।
Narot Pranam.
यस्यामुपहवायत षटो यन्त्रयानमानः कर्मणादस्य वयेवते तत्यादा पुरुषस्य धनं यत्किजत्वं पायिकं बहुकुच्छानि अधिकतम् साक्षात् परमं पुरुषारतानलक्षणो यो असो धर्मस्तस्तु सब्बराय उदाहरन्ति तद्भव्यं धनं दर्शनं स्पर्शनं श्रवण स्वादना वक्रना संकल्प व्यवसाय गृह ग्राम्योपभोगेन गुणात् जितात्मनो यदा सादर्श्य विलुम्पन्ति। हरे कृष्णा।
Thank
Thank
you,
you very
Mataji.
much.
Thank you very much. Revati Mataji, could you get along and finish up the synonym?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Yasyam, in which uha, certainly, va, or iti, all this, sat indiriya namanaha, who are named the six senses, the mind, and the five knowledge acquiring senses, karmanaha, by their activity, dasyavaha, the blunderers, iva, certainly they that yata, as purushasya, of a person, dhanam, the wealth, whatever, kinchit, something, dharma apuyikam, which is a means to religious principles, bahu grachara adikadam, earned after much hard labor, sat directly, parama purusha aradhana lakshanaha, whose symptoms are worship of the supreme Lord, performance of sacrifice, and so on. Yaha, which also that dharmaha, religious principles, tam, that, to, but, sabrahi, for the benefit of the living entity after death. Udaranti, the wise declare, Tat Dharmaya, religious, relating to the prosecution of the Varnashrama Dharma, Dhanam wealth, Darshana by seeing, Sparshana by touching, Shravana by hearing, Ashwadana by tasting, Avagarana by smelling, Sankalpa by determination, Vyavasaya by a conclusion, Graha in the material home, Gramya Upabhogena by material sense gratification, Gunadasaya of the misguided conditioned soul, Ajita Atmanaha, who has not controlled himself, Yata, just as Sardasya of the living entity interested in sense gratification, Vilambanti, they blunder. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Someone is running a television in the background. Can the co-host Mataji's help to mute them? Thank you. Translation. I'm sorry you will hear some nasal twang because I'm still recovering from the nasopharyngeal infection. Translation. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In the forest of material existence, the uncontrolled senses are like plunderers. The conditioned soul may earn some money for the advancement of Krishna consciousness, but unfortunately, the uncontrolled senses plunder this money through sense gratification. The senses are plunderers because they make one spend his money unnecessarily for seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, hearing, desiring, and feeling. In this way, the conditioned soul is obliged to gratify his senses, and thus all his money is spent. These money is actually acquired for the execution of religious principles, but it is taken away by the plundering senses. Purport is nice. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Purvajangajitat vidya purvojangajitanam agre davati. By following the principles of the Varnashram Dharma, one attains a better position in the material world. One may be rich, learned, beautiful, or high-born. One who has all these assets should know that they are all bad for advancement of Krishna consciousness. Unfortunately, when a person is misguided, he misuses his high position for sense gratification. Therefore, the uncontrolled senses are considered plunderers. The good position one attains by executing religious principles is wasted as the plundering senses take it away. By executing religious principles under the laws of Varnashram Dharma, one is placed in a comfortable position. One may very easily use these assets for the further advancement of Krishna consciousness. One should understand that the wealth and the opportunity are given, one gets in the material world should not be squandered in sense gratification. They are meant for the advancement of the Krishna consciousness. Thus, Krishna consciousness movement is therefore teaching people to control mind, that's number one, and 5 knowledge acquiring senses by a definite process. I'm repeating it. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore teaching people to control the mind and the knowledge acquiring senses by a definite process. One should practice a little austerity and not spend money in anything other than the regulative life of devotional service. The senses demand that one see beautiful things. Therefore, money should be spent for decorating the deity in the temple. Similarly, the tongue has to be taste. Tongue has to taste good food, which should be brought and offered to deity. The nose can be utilized in smelling the flowers offered to deity, and the hearing can be utilized by listening to the vibrations of the Hare Krishna mantra. In this way, the senses can be regulated and utilized to advance Krishna consciousness. Thus, a good position might not be spoiled by material sense gratification in the form of in the form of illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. There's one spoils an opulent position in the material world by driving cars, spending time in spending time in nightclubs, or tasting abominable food in restaurants. In these ways, the plundering senses take away all the senses, all the assets that the conditioned soul has acquired with great difficulty. Premakishwari Mataji took yesterday's verse, which was again a nice verse, wherein the question asked was very simple. What is the material forest or the forest of the material world? In subsequent to that verse, we are now going through how we waste our life. We learned yesterday very well that a Vaishya would enter into the forest, look at few things, collect them, transport them to a city shop and sell them, in the process making some profit. As he gets involved more and more, he goes into deeper and deeper parts of the forest and gets more and more things, making more and more profit. But in the process that is going deeper and deeper into the forest, he is losing control of himself and getting overwhelmed by the forest itself. In other words, 3 modes of material nature controls him now, and he has been an obedient servant of these Maya, the external energy of the world. And so the profit that he keeps making more and more, which has to be utilized for maintenance of the family, upgradation of the family, and for the maintenance of religious principles and duties. He has now extra money to spend somewhere else, and he starts spending into sense gratification. Obviously, once you start sense gratification, all the priorities in the world change, and gratification is the top priority. And so, virtually, one starts spending not whole, then almost all of the earnings that they make in the process. So this is the usual process that we all go through. And I think we pretty well understand very well the process, because we all have reached an age where we probably have either been doing it or already done the same process. Things may be different anatomically, but otherwise they all end up into the same analysis. Basically, Srila Prabhupada begins by saying that profits that one makes must never be plundered. He further strengthens this by saying that making profit and getting opportunities are far and in between, means there are not many that comes along your way every day. If you make some extra profit and utilize it for sense gratification, you lose the chance of advancement. In fact, you become so well conditioned that you probably lose the ideas of your thinking about possibility of Krishna consciousness, let aside going back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada says that for that reason, scientifically, a process has been created. We call it Varnashram Dharma. And if we follow the Varnashram Dharma to the technical details and follow it perfectly, then we develop a kind of a life where we live a fruitful life at the end. But still, whatever profit that we make, whatever benefits that we get, we transform into advancement of our Krishna consciousness. And that's why Srila Prabhupada says, following Varnashram Dharma in the basic principles is very, very good. You know, I know, that Varnashram Dharma is not based on the basis of birth as a Varnashram, but the aptitude, knowledge, and the skill that decides which Varnashrama we have. In other words, qualifications decide Varnashram Dharma. Krishna conscious movement is another creation by Srila Prabhupada from scriptures that also helps automatically reinvesting into the process of going back to God or increasing awareness about Krishna consciousness and increasing the level of Krishna consciousness. So ultimately, Srila Prabhupada draws our attention that don't let senses plunder your wealth that you earn so hard with so much of hard labor, but let those wealth be used for the family, for the self, and for the society in advancement of Krishna consciousness, because that is the only way we can live a peaceful life. And if we follow it truly, we can probably attain perfection or self-realization at the end of the life and have an opportunity going back to Godhead. You know it, I know it, and we all know now with Srila Prabhupada's teaching that that is the ultimate goal of our life. Srila Prabhupada very nicely tells that these senses are mainly those which are knowledge acquiring senses, which requires a control, and so also the mind requiring a control. And that's why there are methods and processes which you and me may not know as neophytes are used in Krishna conscious movement in the form of a pattern of bhakti and mantras that we automatically stop wasting our energy behind senses. We control our mind. We control our five knowledge acquiring senses. And thus, we do not waste a lot of money and time in just seeing a beautiful thing or tasting something beautiful, smelling something nice, touching or hearing something. We call it beautiful. Ultimately, it is the desiring and willing. And if desire and will changes, the world changes. If desire and will remain the same, we will still be in the material world and rather in the material jungle or forest of the material world and remain conditioned for many, many lives, passing through so many gross bodies from upper planet to the middle and the lower planets through various species, and you know the rest of the cycle. You know very well that there are 84 lakh species. You know very well that there are 7 planets up there, 6 planets down there, and the Earth in the middle. And so also are all the range of species from a single cell to multi-system organs and organisms. Srila Prabhupada, in other words, tells us that we must stop sense gratification. He gives a wonderful example of how the senses can be used for the purpose of Krishna's satisfaction. When we use it for Krishna's satisfaction, does not always mean only for Krishna. Krishna would need it for us as well. And that's how Srila Prabhupada says that you see the deity, take the darshan, you hear the Krishna Katha, you taste the prasada, etc., etc. In other words, he is telling our typical example of Amrish Maharaj, where he uses all his senses for Krishna, happiness of Krishna, and gets himself fully liberated from this conditioned world. This place is pretty notorious. You, we do not know, and we still don't realize that this is a jungle, which is not actually a material world, but it is a jail. we are in a prison, and we are in a prison and we are happy to be in a prison. You know the definition of a politician? They say the politician is the one who tells you to go to hell and you look forward to the journey. So that's our condition. Unless we think about our position, unless we think about Krishna consciousness, unless we think about stopping sense gratifications only, and unless we think about following religious principles, there is no way that we could possibly think of coming out of this jungle. And obviously, if there is no way coming out of the jungle, then life is really most difficult. In definition of Sukadeva Goswami, liberation means you stop acquiring and changing your gross bodies and only remain in one neutral body. So that's the basic definition of liberation. I think that makes us understand what liberation is. And mind you, liberation is a word we use in synonyms with self-realization, etc. Any question, any doubts, any revelations, any addition, anything missed out, please go ahead. Subbarao Prabhuji, where is your friend Surya Prakash Rao? Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Is the audience there?
Yes, yes. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare Krishna
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful class. Actually, I want to ask Prabhuji, literally, wealth is money here, or wealth means all our pious activities also, Prabhuji, that one earns throughout his life.
I think Srila Prabhupada, when he is talking about money, it's always the profit and the money. He talks in terms of pious activities and profits in terms of going closer to Krishna. So money is just used as an analogy. It is always the pious activities and going nearer to Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And another one, Prabhuji, doubt. What you said, Prabhuji, liberation means that Sukadeva Goswami's definition.
Sukadeva Goswami, you see, liberation is a word which is very commonly used in most of our literary transactions. We call liberation, we call self-realization, we call perfection. They all look alike, same, but to some extent they are different. Srila Sukadeva Goswami gives a very good definition of liberation. That liberation is the one when one stops changing the material gross body. It means he just has one body, which is not certainly material, and that's all that he keeps with himself. He's talking about a soul. And he doesn't keep changing the bodies, and he is not covered by material body. So liberation, when we talk, we're talking about Janam Janam Ke Fere, or you call it cycle of birth and death, that completely ceases, and that's the liberation. I hope that makes some sense, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Subbarao Prabhuji, where are you? Okay. If there are no further questions, no addition, no revelation, I thank you all for attending the early morning class. I know it's not easy, and I know how you are careful to join much before me. I thank you for that. All of you have a nice Krishna conscious day ahead, and come back again tomorrow so that we have our association day. Hare Krishna to everyone, Dandvat Pranam, and all the best wishes to you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Revati Mataji.
Hare
Thank
Krishna
Wish
Prabhuji.
you a very
Dhanyavad.
happy Dasara.
Thank you. Wish you all very happy Dashera and very happy and Krishna conscious